We're just we're just going to have to put the entire video on hold for a while. Things keep happening and things keep changing. Madagascar military says it has seized power as president moves to safe place, and he was apparently flown out of the country on a French plane. An elite military unit says it has seized power in Madagascar from President Andry Rajoelina following weeks of youth-led protests in the Indian Ocean island. Standing outside the presidential palace on Tuesday, CAPSAT Chief Colonel Michael, I'm not saying that, said the military would form a government and hold elections within 2 years. He also suspended key democratic institutions like the Electoral Commission. Well, they're the military. What are you going to do about it? Gen Z protesters will be part of the changes because the movement was created in the streets, so we have to respect their demands, he added. Troops and protesters have been celebrating the apparent ousting of President Rajoelina with thousands waving flags in the capital, Antananarivo. CAPSA, or the Personnel Administration and Technical and Administrative Services Corps, is the most powerful military unit in Madagascar. The unit supported Rajoelina when he came into power in 2009, but joined the protesters on Saturday. Madagascar's constitutional court has named Colonel, I'm not saying that, as the country's new leader, even though a statement from the president's office said he was still in charge and denounced what it described as an attempted coup d'etat. Now, remember the interesting thing? Remember I told you about democracy? Now, this person, 2009, the person's been in power for 16 years and they've done a fucking horrible job. They've done an absolutely terrible job of the country. And then you had a boogaloo. And that's the thing is, whenever someone is in power for long enough and they consistently do a bad job, eventually people boog. But bringing a democratic system with the maximum time a person can serve is 4 years, and that's just a nice little reset button on that anger. Stops people from booging. Stops people from going, oh, it's okay, there's a new guy now, things are going to be different, and they never are, because you haven't changed the circumstances, you've just changed the face. Right? And people will put up with circumstances because those you can't really attack. You might go after the person causing the circumstances, but 4 years is not enough time for a good amount of rage to build up, or 4 years or 8 years or whatever. 16 seems to be the golden number. So that's why everybody's limited to 2 terms. You can't have more than 2 terms. You get to do 2 terms of bad work, not 3 terms. Because by the 3rd term, people might actually boogaloo. So we need to hit the reset button, the little rage reset. But anyway, Rajoelina's whereabouts are unknown, but he has said he is sheltering in a safe place following an alleged attempt on his life by military personnel and politicians. CAPSAT has denied any involvement in any such move. There have been unconfirmed reports that the president was flown out of the country on a French military aircraft. Also on Tuesday, the US State Department urged all sides to pursue a peaceful solution in line with the constitutional order. Colonel, I'm still not saying it, told the BBC that Madagascar was a country where chaos reigns right now. Chaos because there's no president, he's gone abroad. The unrest began just over 2 weeks ago after a youth-led movement began protesting against chronic water and power cuts across the country. The demonstration soon escalated to reflect wider dissatisfaction with Rajoelina's government over high unemployment, rampant corruption, and the cost of living crisis. Protesters clashed with security forces, resulting in the death of at least 22 people and more than 100 others injured, according to the UN. Although the Malagasy government has dismissed those figures and described them as based on rumours and misinformation. President Rajoelina, an entrepreneur and former DJ, was once seen as a fresh start for Madagascar. The babyface leader became president when he was just 34, earning the title of Africa's youngest leader, and going on to govern for 4 years before returning to power after the 2018 election. But he fell out of favour following allegations of cronyism and corruption, which he denied. Because that means even if a person, some nice little revolutionary, some little liberal student, slap them in a position of power and eventually they will be indistinguishable from the authoritarians. That was the message that George Orwell's Animal Farm was trying to teach us. Right? It was obviously, I mean, it kind of completely foretold the rise of Kim Il-sung. I mean, seriously, look at the rise of Kim Il-sung and look at Napoleon. It's exact. And Animal Farm came out before Kim Il-sung was even born, I believe. But was it? No, I'm wrong. No, it wasn't before he was born, but it was definitely before he rose to power. But still, the point of that is power corrupts. Doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter like what political side it is. Power corrupts. A guy could go in there and go, guys, thanks for helping me, like, revolt and, like, take over the country, and I'm going to be totally good and totally great and totally wonderful, and eventually, at the end of it, you can't tell which ones are the humans and which ones are the pigs, right? Because power does the exact same thing to every single person who wields it. Which is why I like libertarianism, because nobody has power. But, yeah, that happens with everyone. That's why I really like Snowpiercer, the series, where all the little commies in the tail end were like, yeah, we're going to totally rise up and take over the train, and then they do. And then they realise to maintain order and maintain their power, they have to do the exact same fucked up shit that the elite were doing beforehand. So it's a case of, oh god, oh no, this is how you hold on to power? Like, yeah, and I love that. I actually love that twist in the story. Despite the fact that power appears to have shifted away from him, he has continued to try influence events. Rajoelina attempted to dissolve the National Assembly before the opposition could vote to strip him of his presidency for abandonment of his post, but that did not work. Lawmakers voted to impeach Rajoelina by 130 votes to one blank ballot on Tuesday. Even members of his party, Irma, voted overwhelmingly to impeach him. Rajoelina rejected the vote, calling it null and void. Oh, it's just that null and void. Oh, he got his darn. He can just say that, like, fucking shut up. The African Union has warned against soldiers meddling in Madagascar's political affairs and rejected any attempt at unconstitutional changes of government. French President Emmanuel Macron called the situation greatly worrying. Is he still fucking president? The island has gone through a series of political upheavals in recent years, which is why we keep having to delay the fucking video. Because so much stuff keeps happening. Madagascar is one of the poorest countries in the world, with 75% of its 30 million people living below the poverty line, according to the World Bank. And there we are at the end of the article. Yeah. This is why you have to have democratic elections. If people can attach their anger to a face, and that face is around for too long, then that anger just builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up over time. And it's all going to be focused at that face. And if that face is in people's faces for too long, eventually they react. Eventually that's how you get a boogaloo, a revolution, or whatever the hell it is you want to call it. Right? Which is why, to keep the pros nice and sedated and keep them chill and reset their rage now and again, every 4 years you have to have an election. Right? And the maximum amount of time that a ruler can be in is 8 years. Right? That's the time is, if you want to do a really bad job and fuck the population over, 8 years is what you can get away with, right? That's why we always make the argument for monarchy. Now, what's a libertarian doing advocating for monarchy? Well, first off, read Hopper. Second off, monarchy is a lot better than democracy because a monarch actually has an investment in the future. Monarchs have kids and they want their children to inherit a prosperous country and a population that likes them. Monarchs who are very, very bad, and obviously monarchs reign for life, so, you know, that face and face and the rage building and building and building. Monarchs have a vested interest in doing a good job, because if they don't, they get dragged out to the guillotine, right? And also, they can't fuck the country up because their children are going to inherit it, and they're going to go, yeah, here you go. Here you go, here's a big steaming pile of shit of people that are probably going to fucking kill you. Yeah, that's what happens. Bad kings don't rule forever. They get dragged to the guillotine. Whereas, because the anger against them is allowed to build up over the reign, which usually lasts until the day they die. And sometimes the population decides to bring that day around earlier than it's supposed to. Whereas in democracy, where you're fucking little every 4 years or 8 years that a person is allowed to rule for, that's a nice little rage reset. It makes everybody go, oh, it's okay, the guy's gone. The guy's gone and we didn't have to do anything. We just voted him out, yay. And now we get to bring in a new guy who's going to do the exact same shit. This next person is going to continue the cycle of destruction of society. But still, anyway, it seems like 16 years is the cap.